Yeah, well, first we'll chant Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Jashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Anachari Jamuna Tira Anachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Jashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. So, Srimad Bhagavatam translation and purports by Sri Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Prabhupada's presentation of Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 2, Text 2, Chapter 2, okay, let's try this again. Canto 2, Chapter 2, Text 23. So, Yogeshwaranam Gatim Ahur Antar Vahi Srilokya Pavanantaratmanam the Karma Bhistang Gatim Apnuvanti Vidyatapo Yoga Samadhi Bhajam. So, Prabhupada translates this as the transcendentalists are covered with, the transcendentalists are concerned with the spiritual body. As such, by the strength of their devotional service, austerities, mystic power, and transcendental knowledge, their movements are unrestricted within and beyond the material worlds. The fruitive workers or the gross materialists can never move in such an unrestricted manner. So Prabhupada's purport, the materialistic scientists' endeavor to reach other planets by mechanical vehicles is only a futile attempt. One can, however, reach heavenly planets by virtuous activities, but one can never expect to go beyond Swarga or Janaloka by such mechanical or materialistic activities, either gross or subtle. The transcendentalists who have nothing to do with the gross material body can move anywhere, within or beyond the material worlds. Within the material worlds, they move in the planetary systems of the Mahar, Janas, Tapas, and Satyaloka, and beyond the material worlds, they can move in the Vaikunthas as unrestricted spacemen. Narada Muni is one of the examples of such spacemen, and Durvasa Muni is one of such mystics. By the strength of devotional service, austerities, mystic powers, and transcendental knowledge, everyone can move like Narada Muni or Durvasa Muni. It is said that Durvasa Muni traveled throughout the entirety of material space and part of spiritual space within 1 year only. The speed of the transcendentalists can never be attained by the gross or subtle materialists. So, Yogeshwaranam, of the Yogeshwaras, the great saints and devotees, literally lords of yoga or lords of spiritual practice, bhakti yoga. Yogeshwaranam Gatim Ahur, they say that the path or the destination of the Yogeshwaras, Antar Bahis Trilokya, within and without, Antar Bahis Trilokya, the three worlds, Pavanantar Atmanam. These Yogeshwaras are purified antaratma, within themselves. So within themselves they are purified, and the karma vis tangating apnuvanti. So they can never achieve that by karmas, by simply by performing material duties or by material activities. That destination people can never achieve. Vidyatapo yoga samadhi bhajam. So again, Prabhupada says that let me get rid of this. Turn this off. That's a sign of the times, isn't it? Everyone's got their cell phone. So the simple point here is that the benefits, the rewards, the happiness, the knowledge of Krishna consciousness cannot be obtained otherwise, and it shouldn't be possible to attain them uh, because people don't deserve it. In other words, if you surrender to Krishna, if you surrender to God, and you're serving God faithfully and with devotion and love, then you achieve things that you obviously can't achieve if one is just leading a selfish life or one is just trying to please themselves. It's like in a relationship. If someone is just trying to please themselves, then they're not going to cultivate a great relationship, whether it's a marriage or friendship or even relationship between parents and children. Some parents are incapable of cultivating a good relationship with their children, isn't it? I mean, they're good parents, they're parents. So, or friends. Some people are just not good friends, and they don't have a lot of friends because they themselves have not been great friends. And so ultimately, God is a person, obviously, and that's another topic, but it's pretty obvious. If you study the nature of the universe, where there's art everywhere, there's engineering everywhere, and where even on this earth, goodness brings happiness. I mean, how could there be a world like that where goodness brings happiness? And not just some mechanical happiness. Of course, the evolutionary biologists were sort of the intellectual equivalents of rocks. I mean, it's like they have one cause for everything. Well, evolution. No explanation, no serious consideration. It's like being a born again fanatic or something. It's just like this monocausal, mindless thing. So you could say, well, because the people were good, that favored the survival of the species. No, it doesn't. Actually, when people are just very nice in the material world, well, they say nice guys finish last. I mean, history is full of cases where very nice countries were conquered by very unnice countries who just, killed a lot of people, conquered them. So history doesn't show necessarily that there's tremendous just physical evolutionary survival advantage in just being nice. In fact, according to Darwin, the opposite should be true. Because according to Darwin, what makes a particular herd or a particular species strong is survival of the fittest. But if everyone is very nice, all kinds of unfit creatures survive. And that actually weakens, you could say, one could argue, if you just want to be a fool and just think that everything is caused by evolutionary biology. For example, I went one time to Sharanagati and in British Columbia, and they have these giant forests of Douglas fir trees, sort of monoculture on the mountains. And what he's told me that the forests are becoming weaker. They're becoming weaker, less robust, because the government suppresses and puts out forest fires. So in a sense, that would be the nice thing to do. But actually, evolutionary biology really teaches us that if everyone is very nice and everyone helps the weak and the lame and like that, then actually just from a purely beastly perspective, from an animal perspective, it doesn't it doesn't provide survival advantage. It's a survival disadvantage. If we just want to talk about ourselves like animals, and so therefore the idea that virtue is its own reward, or that people become happy by virtue, that's evolutionary. No, it's not. The opposite would be true. People should be happy when the fittest, sort of kills off some of the less fit, so that you have one alpha male. That's what porpoises do. We think porpoises are like sort of rational creatures that kind of, swim around the ocean having philosophical discussions. But actually, what really happens among porpoises and dolphins is that they have alpha males that kind of, threaten or attack the other males. And then one male, you know, reproduces with all the females. And so survival of the fittest means that the strongest male should intimidate or kill other human males. It's like, if you go to a party, the strongest male should just beat up all the other males or even kill some of the more stubborn ones and then mate with all the females at the party. And that way you would definitely get a more robust gene pool. So the idea that morality is just survival of the fittest, that's why we feel happy when we act in a virtuous way. The evolutionary biology explanation is just completely nonsense, as all forms of fanaticism ultimately, can be reduced down to nonsense. Whether it's religious fanaticism or pseudo-scientific fanaticism, because to say that everything's caused by evolution is not science. It's a philosophy. It's a religion. If you look at evolution, all you can really say is that we have a fossil record, and the fossil record shows that in most cases, more what are apparently more advanced creatures, judging by their skeletons, which is also limited, judging by their skeletons, which is what survives, that that earlier creatures tend to be simpler and later creatures tend to be perhaps more intelligent. Of course, you judge by the size of the skull and you assume that, the brain kind of fit the skull. So then by brain size or whatever, so there's different, ways they calculate these things. And so even if, and of course, as Sarabhuta and Drudakarma showed, there are many anomalies. But even if you take the sort of the general trend, not exclusive trend, but general trend that you get simple to complex, which by the way is also what the Bhagavatam teaches. The Bhagavatam teaches evolution. It's just the Bhagavatam is not stupid, and therefore it understands that this evolution occurred under divine control, under divine design. So therefore, if you have a fossil record, that doesn't show that it happened by itself. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing in the fossil record. There's nothing in DNA analysis. There's nothing in carbon dating that even suggests that all this happened by itself without a God. There's nothing that suggests that. That issue is not a science issue. You could say it's a philosophical issue. It's a religious issue. And there's nothing whatsoever in science that indicates that any natural thing in the world came about by itself, especially living things. And when you study the absurd complexity of the engineering, bioengineering of cells, of parts of cells, of organisms, the idea that it happened by itself, more and more people are realizing, more and more scientists are realizing, is pretty idiotic. It's like saying that it's like the height or the depth of irrational nonsense to say that all this came about by itself. It's just a religion. It's just a religion which is actually now failing because, fortunately, not everyone is a complete fanatical fool. And therefore, more and more people, even more and more philosophers and scientists, are realizing that it's just a completely absurd theory which really explains nothing. And that has nothing to do with science. Claiming that there's no God is not science, it's religion. So it's like they smuggle in their mindless religion in the name of science. So anyway, uh, so therefore, the reason it's the rewards of goodness surpass the rewards of selfishness because goodness is objectively superior. It's an objectively superior quality. And therefore, the rewards we get for different attitudes, for different motivations, for different kinds of actions, the rewards we get depend on the quality of our actions. And if we act piously, if we act generously, and if we act gratefully and recognize that someone has given us everything, namely God, then you get certain rewards. And if someone is a selfish, small-minded, irrational fool and wants to, deny all these things, then, you know, you get a different kind of result. You have to go to some world where you're locked into a room, forced to listen to NPR fundraising drives, like Eternal Ears. That's actually pretty cool. So, any questions? No questions. All right. Either everyone here really agrees with the point or it's breakfast time. So, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.